All right, Philippe Auclair is on the line. Good morning to you, Philippe. How are you?
Good morning to you. I'm all right. A bit tired, but I'm all right. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about this French team first before we ask you about your opinion on who they're going to be playing in the final. How beloved are this French team by the French public? Have they won them over the last period of time?
I think the results have. It's also you got to think there are two Frances, that the Frances of football supporters and the France in general at large. France in general at large would be is delighted by the fact that we're in a final again. The people who follow football a little bit more closely are, of course, very happy for the qualification for the final, but perhaps don't feel necessarily overjoyed by it, but because of the manner in which the win was achieved. But at the moment, the France which is rejoicing is by far, believe me, in the majority, despite the caveats of some, including myself, of course.
Yeah, well, let's talk about those caveats. What are your concerns about the style of play and the manner in which they've reached the final?
The style of play, we now know what we know what Deschamps is. We know he's an Italian style, I mean old-fashioned Italian style type of coach. When you see that Giroud probably spent as much time defending in his own box than trying to score goals in the Belgian half of the pitch, I think you've said it all. Defensively, it was admirable. Some tremendous individual performances, a very strong collective, obviously a great mentality within the group, and. But again, we still feel a little bit. Well, I still feel a bit frustrated because I still think that this team is capable of so much more. Because you see from time to time, by the way, I mean, in a few sequences of play, that we do have an exceptional generation of young players, and you wish more could be done with them. But I tell you what, it really is it's a rich person's problem, isn't it? When you're in the final, you deserve to be, despite the fact that many of my Belgian friends feel very differently about this, I must say. It's wonderful to be in the final, but again, I can't remember being as little thrilled by the prospect as I am now. Which is weird, isn't it?
Well, totally. But I totally understand it as well, because at the same time, the French team who reached the final of the Euros was, in the opinion of most people, a clearly superior team to the opponent, but they lost that game. And you could see something similar happening here, where they're clearly the best team left. They've got the best collection of individuals. They're even, at times, the best definition of a team. They're just not the best definition of their best team. They're not their best selves when they're playing. And so it's almost as if Deschamps is giving everybody else the opportunity to pick them off by refusing to allow them to be free.
Yes, and you could say that the Belgians were not extraordinarily lucky. They lacked a little bit of inspiration, though, in the latter stages of the game. But, for example, I mean, in Belgium, they're still talking about the free kick that wasn't given against Eden Hazard, because basically that was perhaps the one occasion, at 79th minute, perhaps the one chance that they had to get back into the game for real. But it is true that there is a feeling of frustration, because obviously this France will be compared to other Frances which won major titles. It certainly is not playing as beautiful a football as the France of Platini and Giresse and the others. It's not playing as beautiful a football as the France of 2000, which I think still remains the best team the country has ever produced, both in terms of results and in terms of the quality of the play. This is a very pragmatic France, which is not an adjective that we normally use. And when you talk about what happened against Portugal at the Euro, I think Deschamps, who is very much a coach for whom winning is the only thing, I think he decided, okay, well, I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen ever again. And to make sure this doesn't ever happen ever again, I'm going to build a team that is incredibly solid. And he's lucky. He's got the players for it. Lloris had a great game. Raphael Varane was simply immense, which honestly we'd never seen him at this kind of level. And N'Golo Conte is, for me, the best player in the tournament. Paul Pogba, I think, was superb in defense. You can carry on. And Giroud and even Griezmann, even if he was extremely disappointing one more time in an attacking sense, defended absolutely superbly from the front. So, yes, he's done exactly what he wanted to do, and you score on a dead ball situation. It's not exactly the kind of football that will make people dream. but it's the kind of football that can put a second star on your shirt.
Are you surprised by the chemistry of Pogba and Conte and how that combination has allowed France to be so solid at the back and give Varane and Umtiti that little bit of extra solidity?
Yes, I'm surprised. I didn't think that Pogba had it in him to be a proper defensive midfielder, because we've always thought of Pogba as of being rather a kind of number 8 or a box-to-box midfielder, somebody who can make a difference either with his passing or the fact that these raids when he goes towards the opposing goal. On the other hand, I have never seen, to be honest, I've never seen Pogba defend as he did yesterday, and which comes as a surprise to everybody, perhaps even to himself. And perhaps also he was forced into that position by the Belgians, because, to be honest, they had, I mean, beginning of first half and beginning second half, I must say I wasn't too reassured. I genuinely think they were going to exploit the few frailties there are in this French team, because there are some. It's clear that the poor Benjamin Pavard didn't know what was happening to him between, I think, the 10th and the 30th minute. He could see Hazard was going past him at will. A team that will perhaps attack these frailties more directly than Belgium might pose them more problems.
Yeah, like I don't quite understand why that changed so dramatically in the second half. Was it a move from Deschamps to give Pavard a little bit more protection? Because it seems counterproductive, as you mentioned there, for Belgium to just stop targeting Benjamin Pavard with Eden Hazard.
Yes, absolutely. I think that there was partly that change. And also, I think in Belgium, I think in retrospect, they will ask themselves, did we actually choose the right team to start with? Because that team, it was actually quite difficult for Martinez, I believe, or I think rather, to change the patterns once he saw that the way he'd set it up wasn't quite working. For example, that Dembele really looked off the pace, and it's one of those occasions where you think, I mean, in retrospect, hindsight is a wonderful thing, that you think that perhaps having a Fellaini later on in the game rather than having him from the off would have been perhaps an interesting thing. Actually, would have posed France different questions. And, Martinez is famed for his coaching, his in-game coaching, and that perhaps he didn't react as he should have to the problems that were posed to him by the France team. But this said, nobody was expecting them to be as defensive as that. I mean, it's extraordinary to think that they're the favourites of the World Cup, and they were sitting 10 behind the ball in their own 30 yards for quite large parts of the game. That is very unusual. Even for a Deschamps team, that is very unusual.
When Deschamps is thinking about it today, and when he's looking at the game in Moscow tonight, who's he hoping for in the final, Philippe?
I think he'll be... I mean, from Deschamps' point of view, I don't think he cares that much, to be honest. I think England will be a far more difficult opponent than Croatia. In any case, I don't think Croatia will go through tonight, so there you go. And I don't think anybody in France thinks... I mean, I think Croatia is too lightweight to put any kind of resistance to that French team, which is really solid and physically very solid. That's the other thing that really impressed me by them. Their physical capacities and their fitness is truly excellent. And I think Croatia simply wouldn't have the tools for that. England would pose a completely different threat, if only because England are so good on dead ball situations. That they would present, I think, more of a threat. But nobody has yet come across a solution for how do you solve the Conte problem. This boy is just extraordinary. It's just like everything, he breaks down everything. And so it might be that a more direct kind of play, having good crosses of the ball as England has, and one exceptional one, might be a more direct kind of game might actually work against France. But they are now, I think, overwhelming favourites. For everybody,
there's
not
no
just in France.
About that. Just one last thing, Philippe, just on the Ronaldo move yesterday, which kind of was done noisily in the background yesterday, of course, behind the World Cup semi-final. He's moved to Juventus. Now all questions are about Real Madrid, and you get the sense that Ronaldo's replacement might have been on the pitch last night in St. Petersburg.
Background noise is very interesting, and timing is very interesting too. I don't think, I mean, to be honest, it was... have you ever seen a better symbol of the end of an era than what happened yesterday?
Yeah.
that, or we were talking, I mean, we had a World Cup semi-final, and I don't think that anybody between 7 and 9 p.m. gave a single thought to the fact that one of the great players of all time had signed for Italian club. Absolutely nobody cared. And that's end of an era, I'm afraid. And it's quite a symbol to see a team that is defined by its collective qualifying for a World Cup when a man who is defined by his ego is signing for Juventus. I think the parallel is quite striking myself.
Who are Real Madrid going to go for, Philippe? Is it going to be Hazard? Is it going to be Mbappe? The parallel is quite striking, and it's interesting you say that because
Mbappe is impossible. I mean, it's just impossible. In as much the contract is already signed. Don't forget, Mbappe was on loan, qualified, of course. Word on loan, qualified from Monaco to PSG. I mean, Hazard would be the obvious choice for somebody who can play in that kind of a false winger. On the left, plays the right kind of football. But to be honest, there's an awful lot of, background noise around that. And talking to people who know Eden quite well, they were all telling me that he actually was quite happy at Chelsea. And I mean, once the situation at Chelsea is resolved, and please give me a ring if you get any news about that, because I'm getting a bit bored with it. It would be quite an obvious choice. Mbappe is not going to happen. Mbappe is the man that Paris Saint-Germain is going to build the team around. And, it might be that the boy that nobody talks about anymore, Neymar, that suddenly the Neymar back to Real Madrid is back on. We don't know. But to be honest, that's a kind of circus which is one of the great things the World Cup has completely made us forget about, and what a relief that is, not to have to talk about these things every day.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Philippe. Enjoy the game in Moscow tonight, and best of luck to France for the rest of the World Cup.
Okay, thank you very much.